How to meet women. Now, disclaimer, I have seen this video before, but since then I've probably watched 20, 30 of his videos and that, so I'm not going to remember what he's going to say word for word. Obviously, it will come back to me once I start watching it and that, but yeah, he talks about, I think it's 4 ways to meet women. And even when I was listening to it for the first time, I already knew the 4 ways to meet women. So obviously you got cold approach, yeah. So you just walking up to a gal on the street, you're gonna draw a gal off the street and that. Obviously dating apps, social circle, and what was the other one I was thinking? I thought of another one. I can't remember what the fuck it is. How else would you meet women if it's not your social circle, if it's not dating apps, and it's not social media. Yeah, that's it. Obviously Instagram or TikTok and that. So I feel yeah. That's what he's gonna say. I'm guessing, but we'll see anyway.
I'm Dr. Orion Taraban, and this is Psych Hacks, Better Living Through Psychology. And the topic of today's short talk is how to meet women. That's right. I'm going to walk you through your options. There are only 4 ways to meet women in today's day and age. They also happen to be the only 4 ways to meet men. It's not like there are different ways of meeting women than there are for meeting men. However, men and women encounter radically different challenges and opportunities in these 4 spaces. So while the general pathways are the same, the strategies and tactics involved are going to be very different.
And yeah, you want to be using as much of these ways as possible. As a minimum, you want to be using 2. Hopefully you can use 3, and if you can use 4, then that's the best. Because the reason why I say minimum 2, yeah, because most guys will not have a social media platform, yeah. So we've already lost 1. You should be approaching gal in the street, and you know, if that's not working and that, then hopefully you can get girls from your social circle. When I say social circle, I mean like at work, maybe like a martial arts club or whatever and that. Like through friends of friends and that. You don't really want to rely on dating apps and that. So the 2 that you can kind of get rid of and that is social media and dating apps. You want to meet girls through cold approach and social settings and that. Because like I said, most guys do not have social media that way where they have an audience or they have a following and that. And then you don't want to be relying on dating apps. You want to be using cold approach, so approaching girls on the street, and you also want to be meeting chicks through social circles.
To say the least. So today, I'll be approaching this framework from the male perspective. Let's get to it. As I said, there are only 4 ways to meet women today. They are dating apps, cold approach, social circle, and social media. That's it. And I'm going to be talking about them in that order because I've ranked them from the easiest, fastest, and least successful pathway to the hardest, slowest, most successful pathway. This is to be expected, a pathway that is easy and fast and...
What comes fast goes fast. What comes easy goes easy. What comes hard is hard to go. And yeah.
and has a high rate of success would break the sexual marketplace. Like most things in life, there aren't any real shortcuts to success. You have to be willing to put in the time, and you have to be willing to put in the effort. But let's be clear, these 4 pathways are not mutually exclusive. The best case scenario is that men are doing, or at least that men are perfectly capable of doing, all 4 of them at once. Of the main reasons that men are suffering in today's sexual marketplace, the primary one is that they are overly relying on one strategy to the exclusion of the other 3, namely dating apps. Dating apps are seductive because...
You have to think to yourself like, yo, there's guys here that are just heavily reliant on dating apps, as you know already. Yeah? You have to ask yourself like, yo, before dating apps, let's say 30 years ago, what the fuck were guys doing to get girl? If they were not the type of guys to go out to the club, if they had no social life, if they were reluctant to approach gal, because I've already excluded dating apps Yeah, so there's no dating apps because we're talking 30 years ago. So there's no dating apps. So social media came after dating apps. So if there was no dating apps, there's no social media. If guys were not willing to approach gal in the street and guys had no social circle, what the fuck were they doing? Like maybe going to the club and hoping that girls would approach them.
Rationally,
Do you know what? Maybe that should be number 5, you know, ways to meet women is them approaching you. Making yourself attractive enough for girls to put themselves in your orbit to approach you. That would be number 5. Yeah, that is the 5th way. Women approaching you. But at the same time, there's nothing you can directly do about it. You kind of have to wait for something to go to you. Whereas the other 4, you can actually get started and start, you know, doing things yourself.
Make a lot of
I've been speaking way too much, man.
sense. They are also convenient, inexpensive, low risk, and largely passive. The best thing about them is that you can literally get started for free in like 20 minutes. And with the correct system, you can have a consistent pipeline of women in a couple of weeks. The issue, of course, is that the success rate on apps is very low, at least if you're an average guy. On the other hand, if you are a man who is an 8 or above in terms of pure physical attractiveness, especially with respect to your face, like good cheekbones, facial symmetry, nice hair, pretty eyes, you can absolutely clean up on the apps. It doesn't matter if they're broke or living with their parents or addicted to heroin. For such men, dating apps become a non-stop funnel of new enthusiastic women. However, this is not going to be the experience of the vast majority of men. In fact, I would argue that you really need to be at least a 6 in terms of pure physical attractiveness to see any appreciable success on the apps. Furthermore, lots of men are automatically discounted by women's filters. My brothers, if you are under 5'7", or you are older than 50, you are going to have a very hard time on the apps. The algorithm will just not show your profile to most women, though it will continue to show those women's profiles to you, giving you a false sense of hope. Now, women will absolutely date older men, and women will absolutely date shorter men. However, when they're sitting in the privacy of their own homes and imagining their ideal man, and the app encourages them to think that they're in a seller's market,
it's not you, mate.
their standards
with your 5'1" self
increasingly start to deviate from
Jesus Christ. I was in a Screwfix earlier today, and I hope no guys watching this are this. But this guy was fucking like 5'5". I'm like, Jesus Christ, he made me feel tall. I'm only 5'9". I'm like, God damn, this guy was 5'5". He was an Asian guy, probably Bengali as well. A lot of those guys are quite short. But then in turn, their women are very small as well. So, but yeah, man, that guy was like 5'5", man. Fuck being that small, man.
Reality. In any case, dating apps don't have a high success rate because most men are not attractive enough to beat out their intrasexual competition, and because they don't have a system for engaging the technology correctly. Average guys who are just randomly swiping are much more likely to end up feeling frustrated, demoralized, and hopeless than they are finding a woman to date. So let's move on to the second pathway, which is cold approach. Cold approach, picking up women that you do not know in the real world.
That is the easiest way to get a woman's number. Just you see a woman, bam, you go and speak to her and that. It's the easiest way to interact with women because you're doing the initiating and that, but it has the least returns. So remember what he said at the beginning? You know, if it's easy, then it ain't going to have much return sort of thing and that. And that's what it is. I guarantee you, yeah, the hardest thing is meeting women through a social circle and that. That's the hardest. But when you do get the women, that's when you're going to get the women that are going to stick around and that. And that's why, yeah, if you speak to a lot of people, if you overhear people's conversations and that, they will tell you, I met my girlfriend through a friend of a friend, or I met my boyfriend through a friend of a friend. All the fucking time. All the time. My mum met my dad at a house party. The house party was hosted by one of my mum's friends. My mum met my stepdad. I think she knew someone that he knew as well. All the fucking time, blood.
Is a very useful skill. Very useful. Like knowing how to hunt or to defend yourself, the ability to create a sexual connection with women as you move through the world gives men like a +10 boost to their overall confidence, which in turn makes it more likely for them to succeed in the future. Cold approach also has 2 definite pluses. First,
you can, the greatest thing about having the confidence to approach any woman is this. You are walking down the street and every and any girl is approachable, unless she's with a guy. If she's with a guy, then no, you don't do that, because that's a big violation. I will never approach a chick when she's with her boyfriend and that. That's a big violation. Big violation. But other than that, most chicks are not walking around with their boyfriends. Most chicks are on their own or with a female friend. So you can approach them and that. That's the greatest thing about cold approach. Approaching gal on the street, drawing gal on the street. You see a girl, any 10, any 9 that you see, you have the opportunity to at least go up to them. Now, you probably ain't going to get the number, yeah? But you still have that chance. Like, if you removed approaching girls on the street, that means that like 95% of female human beings that you walk past, you will never interact with them. Now, how sad is that? How sad is that? Or forget about 95% of female human beings, because most of them are not going to be your type. If you are totally against cold approach, you will never approach a girl ever approach a girl in the streets. So that means anytime you see a 10 or a 9 or even an 8, 95 or 99.9% of 9s, 10s, 8s, whatever you want to call it, you will never have that opportunity to interact with them, because you're not gonna initiate. So you have to wait to meet them at work or through a friend of a friend, or you have to wait for them to approach you, or wait for them to hit you up on social media or on Tinder and that. Fuck that bullshit, man. Man, you see a nice girl, go and fucking approach the girl, man. Shit.
you know what the woman looks like, and you know that you are attracted to her. I lost count of the number of women I met from dating apps who either were not using recent representative pictures of themselves and or for whom I failed to
Bro, a girl will be using 10-year-old pictures on her fucking Tinder profile, bro.
feel even the slightest sexual interest on the date. In cold approach, this isn't an issue, as you're likely sufficiently attracted to the woman to functionally intrude into her life. And second, you have direct access to the woman right here, right now. She might not be on the apps. She might not ever enter into your social circles. And she might receive hundreds of DMs every day on social media. But because you are with her in the same place and at the same time in the real world, you have been afforded an unobstructed view to shoot your shot. Of course, there are several liabilities to cold approach as well. First, you will likely have no idea whether any particular woman is currently in the market for a sexual relationship.
I mean, that is not an omission. That is not a bad thing. Who gives a fuck?
Second, women are going to be the most cautious and defended in this approach, as you will have to contend with stranger danger. Third, success depends on snap judgments based on your current presentation, as there won't be an overarching context that can provide more and better information on your behalf. And fourth, it can...
Yeah, what he means by, like, you know, context on behalf of yourself and that, like, there's no one to say, oh, yeah, he's a nice guy, he's a cool guy, he's a safe person to be around and that. Like, you have no social media for her to watch and observe you for months and that. Like, I'm sure a girl would feel way more comfortable. And this is 1,000%. A girl will feel 1,000% more comfortable going out on a date with me if she watches my social media, as opposed to I randomly met her out on the streets and she doesn't know who the fuck I am. Because at least if something goes wrong, if a man is a maniac, she at least can have a picture of me, she can find out my name, or at least my social media stage name and that, and go to the police and say, it was him. He did this. I know who the fuck he is. You know, when girls meet guys off the street, they can give them a false name. They can lie about their age, everything.
Be really scary to approach women out of the blue. Men generally need some kind of system and accountability structure to overcome their approach anxiety. And they will likely need to do at least a few hundred approaches before they begin to feel remotely confident in this strategy. Combine this with the fact that even the best pickup artists in the world still have success ratios that read like baseball batting averages. That is, they still strike out more often than they get a hit. And men usually need to approach scores of women for a cold approach to make sense as a dating strategy. This creates the fifth liability, which is grinding through approaches can feel like a soulless hustle.
Yeah, you know what, yeah? Because I remember, because obviously, like I said, I watched this video. 95% of videos that I react to, I don't watch them prior. But because I feel like I want you lot to experience these videos and that, I will react to them so that you lot can see them for yourself. So anyway, I remember when I think I might have been driving when I was listening to this. And when he said grinding through approaches, I was like, yo. I just had flashes of myself just going up to this girl, going up to that girl, going like literally, yeah, it's like sales. You know, like them door-to-door salesmen and that. You know, yeah, you're going to have to knock out fucking about 50 doors just to get a maybe. It's like that.
As a result, most men, when they do approach women, only approach once in a while. And this means A, they don't get enough repetitions to really get good at it, and B, they really draw out the timeline for success. Like, given how few men approach women anymore, 10 approaches a year would probably be considered above average.
Bro, I've done... Obviously, like when I was younger, like let's say like when I was 20, 21 and that, yo, man would do 10 approaches in a couple, in 2 days. But there's times where I've gone and got 4 numbers in 1 day. Didn't bang one of them. But there's been times where I've got 4 numbers in 1 day. If I've got 4 numbers in 1 day, then I more than likely probably approached about 6, 7 girls that day. Maybe because there was definitely 2 occasions where I got 4 numbers in 1 day. And, you know, maybe it was just a lucky day. Maybe, yeah, I literally approached 4 girls and got 4 numbers that day. This is a long time ago. Man was 20, 21 and that. But, yeah, man, about 10 approaches a year. Yo, man would do that even nowadays, man would do that in, like, maybe a week, maybe. Maybe. It just depends, innit, yeah, like how many girls are about and that. And it depends on your location and that. Like, obviously, if I went to Oxford Street, yo, you could do 10 approaches in fucking 10 minutes. You could do 10 approaches in 20 minutes, definitely. Definitely. Oxford Street, what? You know how much girls are walking up and down in Oxford Street? That's 2 minutes to approach one girl. 2 minutes per girl. Yeah, I didn't say get 10 numbers. I said 10 approaches in 20 minutes. Yeah, 110%. Girls that are actually nice. Yeah.
Imagine if you only swiped on 10 profiles in a year on a dating app. Like, good luck getting any kind of relationship that way. That said, if men actually apply themselves to pickup, they can get pretty good at approaching women in a couple of months. So this is the second fastest pathway to a woman. If you're interested in taking your understanding to the next, they even work together. College, click the link.
My man's back with the plug-in,
in the description for more information.
Jesus
Hope to
Christ,
see you
boy.
aboard.
Buy the course. It's good. It's good. It's great. Hey, man, buy the course. Fucking hell, man.
Pathway is social circle. This is the way that people used to meet. They had the same friend group in college, or they attended the same local church, or they even worked together. Basically, in social circle game, you date your friends, colleagues, and coworkers. And there are a number of pros to this approach. Most notably, it's the safest bet when it comes to long-term relationships because you can vet women slowly and over time. This could occur over multiple group outings with friends or in the context of an escalating office flirtation. Compared with the other approaches, you're much more likely to know what you're getting into, and because you have more time to build a connection with a person before you start dating, it means that if you do start, you're probably more likely to stay together. So what's the problem? Well, it turns out there are several. First, it can take a long time. Like, it takes at least 6 months to make a new friend or to feel a sense of belonging in a new place. And only if you dedicate the time and effort to forge the new connection. Second, your optionality will be severely restricted. Like, if you want to only date within your church, there might be only a handful of eligible candidates, and you might not like any of them. And third, the risks of rejection are also actually much higher here than in other approaches. Whereas dating apps make the vast majority of rejection unseen and unfelt, and an awkward approach can leave a bad taste in your mouth for a few minutes, rejection where one works or prays or studies can be brutal. If the other person doesn't feel the same way, you may irrevocably alter the relational dynamic, both proactively moving forward and retroactively in that person's memory. People will likely gossip about it because that's what people do, and other people might begin to treat you differently as well. Furthermore, because this approach takes time, you may have been focused on one person for months or years who might have disabused you of any hope in a matter of minutes in another context. And through this all, you will likely have to keep showing up to work or church or school. All this is to say that you should be fairly confident that the other person reciprocates your feelings before you pull the trigger in your social circles. Also, relying on your social circle to meet women, if you're not one of the higher status men in the group, it's probably not going to work. Status is very contextual. You can be the top dog in one group and the low man on the totem pole in another. In general, social circle game works if you can be a contextual alpha, which basically means that the other men in the group, formally or informally, look up to you as its leader. As we all know, women don't want no scrub. A scrub is a man who can get no love from them. So if you're not one of the higher status men, it might be more effective to look for a different scene, or even better, build a new scene around yourself. And there are systems for doing just that. And last but not least, we come to the fourth pathway, social media. This approach is far and away the absolute best way to meet women at the present moment. However, of the four, it can take the longest to generate results. So, better get started. There are several reasons why meeting women on social media is amazing. First and foremost, this is where the most attractive women are. They're not on the apps, they're not at your local dive bar, and they're probably not in your little social circle. The most beautiful and desirable women in the world are on social media. If you want to catch a certain type of fish, you have to go where they swim. There really is no way around this one. Second, once this starts to work, you don't have to approach women anymore. Women will approach you. Or if you do choose to initiate, they are much, much more likely to be receptive to your advances. This is because, contrary to popular belief, the most reinforcing resource to a woman is not money or power or visible abs. It's attention. Attention. More than anything else, the ability to command attention makes men irresistible to women. Among other reasons, this is because it can actually be fairly difficult for women to recognize things like money, status, and power. And this isn't only due to the fact that men habitually put false signals out into the sexual marketplace. Think about it. Would you be able to recognize a European noble if he sat next to you on an airplane in plain clothes? Or how about the CFO of a major bank? Or the general manager of a sports franchise? Or a 2-star general? Probably not. I know I couldn't. And this means that women could literally be sitting next to royalty or billionaires and not know it. However,
yeah, there's a famous video of Jay-Z riding the subway, and some woman did not know who he is. Like, someone that was probably a part of Jay-Z's little crew said, "Do you know who that is?" And she was like, "No." And they said, "That's Jay-Z, the rapper." She was like, "I've never heard of him before." Crazy. There are people right now, it's hard to fathom, but there are people right now that don't know who Drake is. They may have heard the name Drake, but if Drake got on a train and sat next to them and no one paid him attention, she wouldn't know none. She would be none the wiser to know who Drake is, or he wouldn't know who Drake is. There's people that don't know who certain celebrities are right now. Like everyone knows who. Well, I mean, you lot watching this know who Mayweather is, but there's a lot of people in the world that don't know who Mayweather is. I remember there was one time, Mayweather went to Brixton, southwest London. He was getting his hair cut, and Mayweather, with his fucking arrogant self, was getting annoyed and angry that some yardie, because if you know anything about Brixton, it's yardie central. Mayweather was getting angry and annoyed with some yardie woman because she don't, me not know who you is. I never heard of you. He was getting annoyed because he's so arrogant. He thinks, because he's a boxer, like he's a famous boxer, that everyone in the world is going to know who he is. Women, how can you expect women to know who you are as a boxer? Women do not give a fuck about boxing. Now, if he was a famous rapper, he should expect more women to know who he is. But you're a boxer. You're a boxer. Now, Mike Tyson was obviously worldwide well known, and Mike Tyson's on a different level. You know what I mean? Yeah. Mike Tyson's known for knocking people out. Mayweather's not known for knocking people out. That's probably why Mike Tyson was so famous and that, and obviously Muhammad Ali. So I think Mayweather thinks he's more famous than he actually is. I think all the money and the watches and that has made him, like, because he's rich. I think he thinks the money is equated to fame. Nah, there's still a lot of people that don't know who he is. And do you know what the craziest thing is as well, yeah? I just find this weird that, like, let's say like someone like Mayweather and that, it's got all this money, all this quote-unquote fame and that. Do you not remember the time when Mayweather flew out some 19-year-old girl when he was 40 years old? And she was from Enfield. Do you not remember that? Do you not remember the time, when Mayweather flew out that 19-year-old girl from Enfield when he was like 40 years old, and she actually had a boyfriend at the time, and she went over to America to meet him? I just think to myself, there are millions of pretty girls in America. There are millions of top models around the world. Why the hell would he pick this mixed race girl? The girl was pretty. The girl was up there. But, like, why? Why her? Why not some Instagram model? I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Why pick a girl that, like, deals with low caliber youths? Anyway, he fucking knows.
This is not true if you're famous. When millions of people know your face, then you become recognizable to women in a way that many people with more wealth or more status or more power aren't. What's more, fame, with the halo effect it produces, can make men who are otherwise not very physically attractive much more desirable. Like, I guarantee that a decent-looking but famous man has better optionality than a very attractive man on the apps. Fame is a force multiplier for men in the game of mating and dating. And the good news is that while it's obviously difficult to get famous, it has never been easier in the history of the world to do so, thanks to social media. Whereas before, you would have to go through casting directors and producers and power brokers of every kind, and anyone who wanted to get in touch with you would have to pass through some form of gatekeeping. You can now just hit record on the magic rectangle in your pocket, and anyone who wants to reach you can contact you instantly and directly. What a world. Unfortunately, there are two big drawbacks to this approach. First, the vast majority of social media channels don't go anywhere. And those that do require years
Not JY's TV.
of effort and consistent.
Yeah, to be fair, I've banged one girl off of my YouTube so far. Because I don't have girls like, watching my videos on YouTube, or obviously chicks will watch my stuff on TikTok and that. But yeah, one thing, I did bang her off of that. Obviously, I had a girl hit me up. Like she was applying too much pressure. I'm thinking like, yo, is this a setup? And I could have had a few other girls in that. But I remember there was one chick I was chatting to. She was alright, but she told me she's got a U, and I was like, fuck it. But yeah, one next thing the other day I was chatting to, but then I looked at her pictures and I'm like, she ain't all that, man. So I just left it, man. But yeah, no, I could have had a few smashes and that. But I don't have girls hitting me up in the DMs. Don't get it twisted. Girls ain't in my fucking DMs. I don't know whose DMs they in. They ain't in my DMs like that. No way. Every now and then I might get a DM from a chick. Like I had one girl sending me nudes and all this kind of stuff, but she didn't want to meet up. The fuck you sending me nudes for if you don't want to fucking meet up, you dumbass?
Dedication. For instance, only 0.6% of YouTube channels have over 100,000 subscribers. However, given the fact that there are 51 million YouTube channels, this means that there are roughly 300,000 successful creators on that platform. So it's rare, but it's not impossible. And second, it is far more difficult for men to succeed on social media than it is for women. Like, I doubt I could put on a skimpy outfit and just like jiggle at the camera for
Please don't.
10 seconds and get 1 million views. As I discuss in my book, men expand their reputations by being visibly competent. And that competence can take years to develop before the very first video is even uploaded. However, if and when the strategy works, famous men enter into a world of dating of which the average man, for his own protection, is only dimly aware. So those are the 4 pathways.
By his own protection, he basically means like, yo, if you as an average guy actually even got a glimpse, even got one day's experience being a famous celebrity, yo, the way chicks throw themselves at celebrities and that, you will be angry, if not jealous, if not resentful that you're not a celebrity. Like, us guys here that are just normal and that, like, yo, we can't actually fathom it. Like, yo, imagine Drake. I guarantee you, yeah, he has got thousands, tens of thousands of women hitting him up in his DMs today, tomorrow. Thousands, tens of thousands. Imagine having tens of thousands of chicks hitting you up. There's no such thing as a drought, boy.
Gentlemen, dating apps, cold approach, social circle, and social media. And like most things in life, the rate of success is kind of organically calibrated to the amount of time and effort involved. The fast and easy options have low rates of success, while the success rates of the slower and more effortful options are much higher. There's plenty more that I could say on the subject, but this is already a long episode as it is, so I'll leave it here for now. What do you think? Does this fit with your own experience? Let me know in the comments below. And
right, that's it for today, man. Stay wise, tunnel.